Welcome to Milestone 3 of the learning series. So far we have our tab view, which is displaying our two different views from our ProfileView.swift and our GameView.swift. We're now going to work on developing our profile a little bit more. So as you can see from these slides, we're going to build this up slowly. And if you've ever done any HTML and CSS building websites, this would be very familiar to you in using divs to add padding, both vertical and horizontal, to eventually build up your interface. And that's basically what we're doing with these V stacks and H stacks. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is to create some properties for our strut. We're going to create a gradient, and we're also going to have a profile image, and these will be used within our view. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space here, and I'll move this to the side just so you can see the correct wrapping on the text. So first I'll start with my gradient, and our gradient will have a list of colors. I'm just going to use blue and pink. Feel free to change your colors, you don't have to use the one I've used. And for my image, I'm going to use an image literal. So you can see this appears at the bottom here. I want this little landscape picture. And if you don't have any pictures available, I'm going to select this one here for now. You can go to the add button on the top right, click on the images and insert from. I'd recommend that you insert from your Files app rather than your camera roll, just because you can ensure that you have a nice file name ready for insertion later on. So from here, I'm going to start on my interface. So the first thing I'll do is to remove this red color. I'm going to add a vertical stack. And this vertical stack is where I'm going to define my background colors. So my background will have a linear gradient. I'm going to set my gradient to my gradient which I just created up here. My start point will be from the top and it'll end at the bottom. I'm then going to add in the edges ignore safe area. This just ensures that it goes all the way to the edge. Just because we're using Swift Playgrounds, it gets a little bit funny. Okay, so now I have defined my vertical stack. Inside this, I'm going to have an H stack with a space down the bottom. Inside that, I'll have a spacer, a vertical stack, and another spacer. This will create my top section where I'm going to insert all the parts. And then inside here, I can start to insert my image view, my text view, and my other text view. Okay, so let's add in each of these. Here we can define our UI image. And of course, I'm going to use my profile image here. And I'll set the properties. I'm going to make it resizable. I'll set the aspect ratio. To fill. I'll set the frame of my image to be a square. I'll clip it and I'll add some padding to the top just so it sits off the margin a little bit. So again, very similar to CSS if you've ever used CSS or cascading style sheets for developing websites. I'm going to add some text to my text view. Use the font attribute. Now these are similar to header 1, header 2, or H1, H2 if you're doing HTML. I'll make it bold. I'll set my foreground color to be white. And I'm going to add in some padding as well. And last of all, I'm going to add in my subtext with my socials. some padding as well, just a little bit for this one. Okay, so fairly simple. Again, make sure our console is turned off and run, and I now have a beautiful profile view. So I pre-cropped this image. Yours may appear square. I just did that in Keynote. If you'd like to crop it into a nice circle, export it as a transparency, and then it will display a bit nicer for you. And that is the end of milestone number 3.